Hello. I think we need to review what's been happening today, and Liz Truss began the day. I think she can end the day as well. I mean, if she can end anything, frankly. I was particularly struck by John Akers in Stoke in the morning round of local radio programmes that Liz Truss did. He said, because of what she and her Chancellor have done, we are going to end up paying more in mortgages than we would have done spending on energy. Brilliant line and brilliant observation. I think he's right. When it comes to energy, when I think of my energy here, we could turn down the energy maybe a bit. We can't do anything about the mortgage, except to bow to the possibility of repossession or sell at a loss. Anyway, when Liz Truss was facing this particular issue, there was a long pause, and then she said, I don't think that we should avoid acting on energy. In other words, she doesn't listen. She just goes along trying to find the right slogan or an appropriate slogan to respond to whatever anybody says to her. And that was evident during the 6 weeks of leadership campaign. I kept pointing it out. I kept pointing out her sloganizing, her inane and contrived hand gestures, and she's clearly had lessons, and she's clearly not been a very good student. Her hands just go up and down. There's no sort of movement sideways. There's no expression. It is a completely, as jobs go, this is a completely useless hand job. And it's Liz Truss's. If I had taught her that, I'd be hanging my head in shame. Mrs. Thatcher, I recall, was given acting lessons, and they were rather good. Rather good. She, in fact, dropped her voice, and she became quite expressive with her hands. If Liz Truss is aping Mrs. Thatcher, she has not made a very good start. Now, the Bank of England today has started quantitative easing. I'm not sure how many T's there are in that. Maybe somebody who wants to comment can enlighten me. And at the same time, there's been a sort of far-right diversion by one Conservative MP dared to suggest that it was the Labour Party's fault, and specifically Keir Starmer's fault. So if you don't blame Gordon Brown for the problems that the Conservative Party has inherited, then you can blame Keir Starmer for the problems that it's going to be inheriting later on. Or in some sort of strange Doctor Who world, time is inverted. I suppose this confirms absolutely that Keir Starmer is going to be winning the next general election in 2 years, or maybe sooner. So there's been an effort to try and calm the markets, and the Bank of England has done this by basically buying more of its own money. And the right-wing Conservative fans of Kwasi are busy trying to say that Kwasi is still cleaning up the mess that was left by Labour or that will be left by Labour. It's like anticipating cat poo by putting cat litter all the way around the kitchen. There's a certain amount of madness here. Anyway, what else is going on? Well, I think Liz Truss has very few options. What can she do? Today, in the few interviews which have emerged on the BBC, she looks like a scolded girl. Now, we know that Boris Johnson was rather good at the image of being rebuked. He looked like a scolded boy. She looks like the female equivalent. And actually her hair has taken a sort of crazy look as well. What is she doing? Is she just trying to ape Boris and hope that's going to get her through the problem? I don't think it will somehow. I don't think it will. I think the problem is much bigger than Boris. The problem is about stupidity. And Boris was a liar, allegedly. He wasn't stupid. The jury's out on Liz Truss's brain. And to quote Liz Truss herself, with respect to Monsieur Macron. So Kwasi will probably be making political history. If Nadine Zahawi was the Chancellor who was only Chancellor for 3 months, Kwasi may well be the shortest-lived Chancellor and be out within 3 weeks, because that is one of Liz Truss's options now. Liz Truss is going to have to sort out the problem that Kwasi and she have created, because they didn't take advice before they went through this mini-budget nonsense. And they can't just blame everything on trying to sort out energy. They've still got the problem that they abolished the top rate of tax and are effectively now expecting the rest of the country to pay for the rich to get richer. That is how Labour will present it, that is how it appears, and that, I think, is literally what has happened. So she has 3 options. One option is to do nothing. To do nothing, and the Bank of England will eventually raise interest rates, 6%, 7%, whatever it's going to be, and our mortgages will go through the roof, and it will have a great impact, not only on this election, but on the next one as well, because nobody is going to forget that Liz Truss was the person who put our homes at risk, who put our homes at risk of repossession. Nobody will forget that. They might forget a winter of discontent. They might forget, or they might be appeased by the idea that Putin is to be blamed for our energy problems. Nobody will forgive Liz Truss, and nobody will blame anybody else except for Liz Truss for losing our homes. So that's one option. Another option is that in order to justify this quasi-nonsense, there's going to be massive cuts in public spending. In fact, those are already underway. We've already heard that budgets need to be slashed and that departments need to find cuts in public spending. And this at a time when we are told the NHS faces another winter, another tough winter, with another form of COVID and flu just around the corner. And yet we're going to make drastic cuts in the NHS, in public services, to pay for tax cuts to the rich. Well, that is an option, but it is a sure and certain way to see the Conservatives lose the next election. And what alternative is there? Well, the 1922 committee could revise their rules, because at the moment you aren't allowed to challenge a new Prime Minister until after 12 months. I think this new Prime Minister needs to be challenged after 12 days. And she needs to be replaced, and not by the methodology that requires a Conservative faithful to vote in some other twit. No, this needs to be done quickly and efficiently, and I think actually even better, it needs to be a conversation with the Labour Party and a government of national unity. The Conservative Party needs to do some penance. It's not enough to lose one election. The third option that Liz Truss has got is the one she's not going to take at all, and the one she will not even consider. Even today, she is insisting that she is right. And that will continue, because Liz Truss, I know this character, I know this person. Liz Truss does not take advice. Liz Truss does not listen to anybody unless they've got a slogan in hand. Liz Truss does not admit that she's made a mistake. And that's the third option, to reverse the tax cuts. She'd still suffer, Why would she do these tax cuts in the first place? Why did Kwasi do it? No evidence, no support for these things, and he's promising that there's going to be an announcement on the 23rd of November. It's all too late. It's all too late. What can we do on the 23rd of November? That's one of these ridiculous announcements, which is just before Parliament retires for the Christmas break. So if anybody objects to that, they're all on holiday. This is a stupid timing and an arrogant decision. And it's time we challenged that arrogance, if necessary, in the ballot box, but certainly in the letterbox of our MPs. We need to insist on the 1922 committee being changed, the rules being changed. We need to insist on this vile and incompetent Prime Minister being pushed out of office and replaced as fast as possible. Something very strange is happening to my phone. It's got a life of its own. Anyway, good night.